Welcome everyone to our M365 Philly virtual event slash SPS Philly. People used to are still used to call it as SPS Philly compared to M365. And well, as you all know, it's going to be a 3-day session starting from today, every day 12 to 3, 12 to 4, 12 to 4, 12 to 4, and we'll have a closing note on the last day. We have sponsors, the Tri-State Office 365 Group, Soho Dragon, and the Tech Platform. Thank you to all the sponsors because the sponsor will help us to get some gifts for attendees and for raffle and all those kind of amazing entertainment. So here we are to talk about the explore how we can export the Power Apps to SharePoint tips and trick. And here me, Manpreet Singh, I'm a technology specialist at Cognizant, also an MVP and the host of this event. And I have Nishanth Shreepad with me, my colleague, an Office 365 specialist, a speaker, and he also works for Cognizant. Thank you everyone, welcome back here. So how what Power Apps? So let's talk about some of Power Apps. So right now we all would have heard what is Power App, how it works, how the things. I don't have to go to that detail like what Power App does and how the things are working in. So in today's agenda, we're going to talk about. I'm just going to give you a brief 2-minute like sentence about Power Apps, and then we can talk about how Power Apps cover everything. If the coverage is so powerful that everyone is moving towards it. Though there's another reason that's free of cost for basic license, but still. And what are types of Power Apps we can pull? Then Nishanth is going to come in and show us how Power Apps can be connected to SharePoint, the plans and licensing, and we're going to talk about some of the tips and tricks we have in Power Apps, which we'll be seeing while we develop, and then the new features, what Power Apps have, and what Microsoft has bring in. So it's been a very key challenge. Like I remember when Power Apps started, I think 2 or almost 3 years ago, it was so basic, there was nothing in there. And from that basic platform to right now, it's like perfectly inbuilt with AI, knowledge builders. It's so much to see and so much to learn in there. So let's talk about Power Apps. So what is Power Apps for people who have not even touched it? But I guess everybody knows it's part of the Power Platform, like Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents. All the power come inside one Power Platform. So in here, this Power Platform, this is nothing but a custom app on your phone, on your iPad, on your laptop. Right now, it's all about the apps, right? We use plenty of apps in our phone in a day-to-day life. This is like a company or a corporate app, so which you have to install. You can install it in your phone, install it in iPads or your laptop, and that becomes a repository of multiple corporate apps. So in a way, this is a repository of corporate apps, and all in one platform. It's Power Apps, and the way it built is so simple. The end user also have quite a lot of access to it. There's not much code building. There's not much like kind of a complex solutions. You don't have to deploy WSPs, maintain multiple environments. All in here, you just need a web browser. You don't need a Visual Studio. You don't need any third-party tools to build something. As I said, you just need a browser, Chrome or IE or an Edge. And that's what Power Apps is all about. Power App mainly have three things. You build, you get a source, you connect to the source, and you connect to the user. It's just three things what you do, and the Power Apps complete and the whole platform built in. So on the next slide in Power Apps, we're going to talk about the how Power App is covering the various platform and the coverage of it. So Power App is already in cloud. That's why I was talking. You can access it from anywhere and everywhere in any platform, and because it's on the web and it's on the cloud. So we don't have to have an environment or a remote desktop or a virtual machine. You can have that Power App in any place. It can be a local cafe, it can be your laptops, office laptop, and things like that. So it's in the cloud. You can access it from any devices. The connections. I was talking about connections. Power App already gives you 1,000+ connections, and these connections are not only with Microsoft technologies or Microsoft products. You can have connection with third-party tools like Twitter, Facebook, ServiceNow, Instagram, CV, all the CRM portals. So it's so easy. You can play around with the data, read and write towards different platforms just through one app, which is your Power App. Second one, the third one is it's a code-free app. You don't write a single line of code. There are basic code of just writing some small syntaxes, but those are not called as code. Code is when you're calling in the classes and those variables and things plus, like all those things. Code-free apps helps every end user to also come in. You don't really require to hire a developer to work on your Power Apps if you just want something basic. Yeah, and actually, if you see you have an hands-on and you keep on working on it on a various platform, you will actually not require any developer. You can be your own self-developer. And for developers, this is so amazing platform. Those were the days when we used to write the code in info platforms so for basic roles and show and hide kind of complex. Right now, it's the same thing, but you don't write that many code lines. It's just like if loop and just take a category, and if it matches with true, it hide shows, similar way false, and hide shows. So if you see on those variation, the apps which are code free, they are more lovable by the clients. Why? You don't have to have any costing to maintain the code bases structures. You don't have any costing to maintain like Visual Studios and platform and pay for those licenses. Everything comes free with the Power App Basic plan. And as I said, Nishanth will going to talk about the more details about the licensing. Code-free apps is more liked and loved by all people because you don't have to be a computer science or an IT engineer to work on a Power App. A basic skill, a basic knowledge of web API or web development makes you help you build a Power App. It's that simple. Use on web and mobile. So the usage of the platform is like you can use it not only, as I said, on browser. You can have your own in-house inbuilt app on your laptops, on your iPads, on your phone. So you can actually build an app while you are on a bus or you are on a journey, and you can build it and publish it, and there it is live. You don't have to go for a WSP deployment, asking a custom person to come in and help you for a deployment, running PowerShell scripts. Nothing. All single clicks away. You go in, you create one, you publish it, and it's published throughout the world and throughout the organization. And as I was saying, this gives you a Power App Studio. It's an inbuilt studio to build and develop Power Apps. As I said, you don't have to buy custom Adobe Premium connectors or Studio machines or Visual Studio to connect to all this kind of connectors and building this platform. It's a simple drag and drop system where you just drag on all the machinery, all the platform, all the fields you require, and you build up everything on a digital node. So in a way, you don't have to have a studio, or you're not paying extra for buying a studio. It all comes with the plan. Data model. Now this is very important. So when I was talking about the connections, you can have any n number of connectors like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, SharePoint, SQL Server, n number of connectors. How about you saving the same thing, the vice versa? You can also, if this is a target and the target is Facebook or Instagram or SQL maybe, you can also save them as a source. So the source and target can be the same thing. It's not a necessity that Power App is going to be the only source and target and it's like that. You can have a source, like Facebook, and you can have a target, a SQL database, and Power App will be a standalone UI interface for all of you. So that's how it works. A similar way, if you don't have any of them, for example, you have an Excel sheet and you don't know what to do with that. If you go ahead and buy a SQL database in Azure, it's going to be expensive for you. If you are a very small scale business industry or you're just playing around. And a similar way, you can have databases or CRM models built in for you to just test around Power Platform. Don't have to worry. It provides you simple CRM in their own tenant. If you have a Power App license, you can have common data model system, which is nothing but in-house a kind of a simple SQL database attached to your Power App license. So what happened there is you can go in there, you can create the similar way tables with string value, number value, currency value, and all those parameters that you use in SQL database. Have that basic in-house hosted in your own Power App Studio. So you can not only build a Power App, you can actually store the whole data, the whole tenant data in one. Excited, right? It is. So why does it affects you? So it affects you, for example, if I have a small database, I really don't have to go and purchase something very expensive like SQL Online or a Cosmo DB or something from Azure. I can use something very basic, an Excel file. I can import it to my CDM. the common data model is gonna have all my data, and I can play around like reading and writing, going back with the same platform. So my UI will be much faster because I'm actually not going out to another third platform to get the data. So it's gonna be very quick processes. I can get and achieve whatever I want. The database, the source, the target, and my Power Apps, which is for the UI, the end user, all in one place. So this is what data model works in. So let me talk something about what are the Power Apps and what kind of different types of Power Apps we have. So we have three different types of Power Apps. One is the canvas, one is the blank, and one is the model. So as you can see on the screen, there are three options. So when you go to powerapps.com, just go ahead. That's why I always ask people, just go ahead and log in to powerapps.com. It's free. Play around with it for 180 days or 90 days. And if you're still playing around, they will ask you to extend it again for free. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay anything. And unless and until we developers go ahead and play around and break things, you won't learn, right? So for us here, we as developers, we love drawing something on a blank board. For example, if we get something which is already built and somebody asks us, can you customize this? We'll be like, oh my God, we'll have to read that code, understand that code, because all of us, every one of us, have a different approach or a different way to write things, or write codes, or build something. But if you have something from the scratch, that's what we are. So right now, if somebody asks me what you want to build, I will be always like, I want to start from blank. And you can choose canvas. So you can choose canvas as an app, start from the blank. If not, you can use templates. So initially, when you are all new, I would prefer you to go to Canvas app, click on new canvas. You have n number of templates like a leave tracker, timesheet submission, expense report submission. Just click on them, publish it, and see how Power App is working without you doing any work. It's already inbuilt there, those templates. Just do a little bit custom UI artifacts, and everything will be out there. But what happened, for example, you are an HR and you really don't know anything about this technology, and like, oh my God, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't want to play around. So you can do a model-driven app. So what's a model-driven app? So model-driven app is nothing but you input the AI, what kind of a build-up you are going to build, whether it's an HR, for example, I want a leave tracker for my company. I have templates, but I don't want to use it. I want something on my model, on an AI. You tell the AI that I am going to work, I want an HR site, an HR app, which I am going to track the expense report and a leave tracker. You inbuild those parameters through the AI. The AI is going to build up the whole Power App for you. So the AI is going to build up, and you will have everything, a custom app, Power App with you for using it right away. It will set up the all content data model, it will set up the database, it will set up everything, and it will just give you a link. Use that, share it, and you are ready to go. But again, we are, as I said, developers. We can't be satisfied with that because you can't change anything. In model-driven apps, like, you can't do the maximum changes. It will be like very minimal changes, moving things here and there and adding some quickers. But you can't do a major change on this application. So what we suggest is here for developers, start from a blank. Let's just pull up, draw and drag. Like if you have worked on Visual Studio, you have all your toolbox, and you drop in single line of text field, date field, multi-line of text field. It's a similar way. Open Power Apps, open the blank screen, keep on pulling and pushing in. Put a label up here, put some fields up here, put a couple of buttons to submit data and cancel button and things like that. And the whole platform is ready to go. So what I always suggest people is go ahead, start with a blank canvas with a template. So what happens when you choose a template? You see, you can edit that template and you can just destroy everything. And if it's not working back, you can again reinstall it and get back to the template. But model and all, it's good. It's not bad, but it's quicker. Like for example, I need something very quickly to demo to a client right now, and I just go ahead and use a model. But what happens if I have time and I want to have an app with my own ideology, with my own thinking and how it should be working? I'm gonna use that as a canvas app. Now the third option, the portal app. So what is portal app? Portal app comes one in every license or a tenant free of cost, and that is for external app. So right now, all these apps I was talking about, all internet apps only for your corporation. You can't share these apps with people outside your organization. So for example, I want to share an app with another person or another client who is not on my tenant. You cannot do that. But Portal app gives you no access to share one portal, one app with external users. So this was just launched a couple of months before, and people are using it. But it has its own restrictions, a lot of like user permission level and things like that. So, but ideally, right now, if somebody has to do a Power App, it's all allowed, and people say to use it on the platform rather than going out, because when you go to external platform, it's like almost the same as you're using Microsoft Forms, which can be used on third-party tools, and you can connect them with flow connectors and build up a whole process. But again, that's another thing I'm not coming towards this session today. So if you see, the canvas, the model driven, and the portal app are the one which are running together, and it's very easy to handle. It has some limited permission issues. So for example, if I host in Canvas app, the app is hosted. But if I have to control the access, and we are, for example, SharePoint developers, and I build a Canvas app. So Canvas app will be a standalone app. It will be not related to any SharePoint, any technology, Power BI or something. So if you are a person, you will just click on it and the app will open, and there you go. You can see the app and the features and the processes. But we are SharePoint people, and sometimes what happens is like uh, there are people who want Power App to be inbuilt on SharePoint. Yes, there is a way to do that. Don't have to worry. There's an amazing way to do that. And not only that, this app get integrated with SharePoint so well. It's a part of it. Like when we use a list or a custom list or a document library, and you use a new form, edit form, view form, it gets attached to it. It gets overlap to it. So when you click a new item on a list, it's going to open a new item of in a Power App. Exciting, right? That's what we're going to learn today. So I am handing over to Nishanth now. He's going to show you how Power App can be connected to SharePoint and played around. Nishanth, over to you.
Thank you, Manpreet. Hi, everyone. I hear echo. Manpreet, do you hear an echo from me?
No, Nishanth, you're good.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. So far we have seen all what is Power Apps and what Power App can do for you, and what are the coverages that my Power App considers, and all those kind of things. So now we'll get into a little bit of how we can gel Power Apps with your SharePoint. So to come to the point, so with the advent of modernization that has come up with Office 365, what has happened is everyone is moving towards cloud, and what we are doing is we are trying to get rid of most of the obsolete, most of the technologies and tools which we used to have earlier, like maybe InfoPath or your designer or all those kind of things. Everything is moving towards modernization, and Office 365 has been a great tool which is driving everyone towards the modern experience. So with all this being said, SharePoint as a technology or as a platform was used earlier to customize a lot of forms using mainly sometimes like InfoPath, where a business user could go in and he could go ahead and customize his form the way he wanted. So now with those products going out of support and getting obsolete, and we need to move ourselves towards the new modernization or towards the cloud environment. This is where our Power Apps come in. So with specifically to SharePoint, Power Apps can also be used to customize your forms that comes basically with your list or a library. So we can customize your new form, edit form, and all the forms of your SharePoint library or a list, and you can do everything that what Manpreet was showing around with the Canvas app, right? The same thing you can also do with the SharePoint forms as well. So since we were looking into what we can do mainly with PowerApps and SharePoint, and since we have already seen what Canvas can do, since it's completely out of SharePoint, right? It is hosted in the PowerApps environment. It connects to SharePoint. But what we are seeing here is the second type of customization that will be done in-house to your SharePoint environment. So the main advantages that comes with this kind of the form customization is that all the permissions that you have, right? Like maybe you have design permissions, contribute permissions, all those things that come with SharePoint is applied to your form as well. So you just go ahead and create a form. You just go ahead and click new. It's Power App form launches. So until recently, we were just able to customize list, but Microsoft has also rolled this out to library forms now as well, which is a great enhancement over the form customization. So for people who are actually looking into moving things from InfoPath into your cloud environment, Office 365, although this is not an exact replica or a replacement of the InfoPath product itself, lot of the customizations that you can do with InfoPath can definitely be done in PowerApps and in a better way where you get connected to a lot of other sources within the environment. So having said that, there is a little with any product, right? There are some with or any type of PowerApps, right? We have a little bit of negatives and positives as well, right? Like Canvas has the permission thing where it has its own permission. Similarly, the form customizations has some item limitations where you can have a managed metadata or a lookup column set to certain kind of a limit, like 20 items getting retrieved, all those things to enhance your performance specifically. But again, that's the kind of limitations that you will encounter when you go towards the list form customizations in SharePoint. And also another negative that would come across when you are using a list SharePoint form customization along with in comparison with Canvas is that you can't easily import and export. You can definitely import a SharePoint form customization from one environment to another, but again that comes with some catch where you'll have to go ahead and change the internal files to get it moved to a new environment, or else you'll have to rebuild it. So that's about the SharePoint form customization. So we have seen how you can build a Canvas app, connect to a lot of things. You can also we have seen how the SharePoint form customizations come into picture with SharePoint customizations, and now we'll see how we can embrace this Power Apps to use specifically with SharePoint and other, to use it in our day-to-day lives. So Microsoft started with your PowerApps Office 365 license. So PowerApps for Office 365 is a license which comes along with your Office 365 subscription. Suppose you have an E3, an E5, or whatever you have, right? So when you are assigned a license, PowerApps comes with some of the license, like you have multiple licenses, but with E3 and E5 and all those licenses which are usually given to people or for developers, for generic users, you can still use Power Apps to go ahead and extend the Office 365 capabilities. So if you have your Power Apps for Office 365 license, you can go ahead and play around with your by creating a Canvas app and all those things, but only within the purview of your Office 365. But having said that, if you want to do something more, like if you want to connect to your SQL or maybe an SAP or something like premium connections to Oracle or something like that, right, which is a not a non-Microsoft product or a premium product, then that's where Power Apps will ask you to pay. So there have been different plans devised for it. So there was a plan which was for plan 1, there was like $10 per user per month with some capabilities, and there was one maximum plan with Power Apps plan 2, which was like $40 per month. All these things per user per month was already there, but recently again, since this is an evolving product and there are a lot of changes being happened, recently the licensing scheme has changed, and the Power Apps for Office 365 license still holds, but now there is like per user per app licenses as well as per user. So you can assign licenses to an app as well as you can assign licenses to a user. So if you add to a user, the user can go ahead and do everything. But again, if you assign to an app, you can go ahead and keep that app for until you have a license for it. So That's about the licensing. So within our context, where we are looking to where we are exploring SharePoint connections with PowerApps for Office 365 license that comes with your Office 365 subscription should do the trick, and you should be able to go ahead and embrace PowerApps as it is. So now we'll see some of the tips and tricks that we can use with PowerApps, and we'll showcase some of the very good capabilities that comes with PowerApps so that everybody can go ahead and embrace it to build new apps in our day-to-day lives. So the first thing that we see here is if you want to get into development of PowerApps, you just log in into Office 365 PowerApps. You can use the dots here to go ahead and choose your Power Apps and get into here, or you can go into directly click into powerapps.microsoft.com, log in with your subscription that you already have, and then go ahead and create an app. So as Manpreet was explaining, you have different other kinds of apps that reside within your Power App, which is Canvas, Model, and Portal. So we'll just try a Canvas now just to show our tips and tricks. So I'll just go ahead and create a Canvas app, which loads me a environment. The studio loads me an environment, which gives me a lot of templates that I could use to go ahead and build an environment or build an app. So I'll start with a blank app for now, which is which you can see here. You can use other things, right? Like when you can directly connect to SharePoint, you can choose the layout, you can build an app for OneDrive, SQL, and all those things. For now, we'll just try a blank app and use it as a tablet option. So you can choose whether you want to have a mobile view or a tablet view. So I'm just using a tablet view over here. And there you just logged in and it gave you all the necessary information where you can go ahead and learn about it. You have tips that came up quickly over here. So it is also that Microsoft is trying to let you learn these things along with building things in the backend, right? So also, if you see here, you can see a lot of templates that come with Power Apps. So if you go ahead and try to build something, Microsoft gives you a lot of options to go ahead and also build your app, right? Where you can choose a different template. Let me see if I can get that over here. Yeah, you can go ahead and start with a template where you can go ahead and choose the template and go ahead and play around with it to learn more about it. So let's dive a little bit deeper into how we can use some of the other tricks, right? Like creating a variable, moving around from different screen to screen and all those things. So the first trick that we learn today is how to use variables, because variables play a very important role in Power App. So we used to do development with JavaScript, we used to do development Visual Studio, and we know how important a variable is. You can pass values from screen to screen, you can use it to store values and all those things. Similar capabilities you're getting with a studio like this, which is directly on your browser and you don't have to do anything. Just go ahead and use it to move data around. So I'll go ahead and create two screens right away. I have screen 1, screen 2. And I'll show how the variables can be utilized here to move data or to hold data. So I have screen 1, screen 2, and coming to variables, there are basically three kind of variables that we can utilize within Power Apps. One is your global variable that can move across your Power Apps screens. Like if you have on screen 1, you can go to screen 2. Everywhere the variable will still be valid. And also you have contextual variables, which is within the purview of the same screen. Like if you have a variable here, it'll be in that the values can be read from or can be stored in from the same screen. And now there is like there is a new advancement where you have environmental variables as well, where you can go ahead and store variables at your environmental level. So that's about variables. So first we'll see how a contextual variable works. So I go ahead and set this screens up. And with screen one, we'll see how we can just use a variable and how we can uh, create a variable and use it. Let me put two text boxes and a label which will show my data. And this button I'll use to create a contextual variable. So having said that, right, Power Apps from the beginning has been like very easy to do calculations. So similar to if everyone is when business users all who are uh, have been using Excel into in their day-to-day lives can use the same Excel-like formulas to create or to build up your formulas in your Power App. So now I'll just go ahead and set this value here. The text of which will be text input 1. And I'll just do a plus symbol, an addition symbol. That simple. It is like an Excel formula, right? You just go ahead and add text input 1 and text input 2, which are my two controls. And if you see here, it already calculated your values. So if you have whatever, it is already showing 0. So I'll go to the preview of this. Type 5 here. You see there is a 5 plus 0, and then I'll add 10, which change it into 10. But again, this is a direct calculation, a runtime calculation that Power App is doing. But I need to store this somewhere and then use this within my screen or within my context of the Power App. So what I'll go ahead and do is create a variable. To create a variable, what we use is a formula or a function called as update context. So if you see here, update context is what stores a variable within the current context of the page. So I'll go ahead and create one, and there is the syntax for doing this is you open a brace, close a brace, and there you can go ahead and just close it. There you're done, and you just create your variable in between, and I'll call it variable context and set the value to my label 1, which I have already created here. Another important thing that we'll have to notice while we are creating Power Apps is the naming convention is very easier, because it's very easy for you to get confused when you're going ahead and playing with a lot of controls. So I'll go ahead and just use this for now, taking the time into consideration. Label 1.text should be my context, and I'll just go ahead and show the value that is being currently stored over here. And I'll set this to variable context, which I just created. So if you go ahead and see now, I have 5 plus 10 is 15. I do 5 plus 12, which is 17, but it's still not stored anywhere. I go ahead and click on this. That's where my data, which is currently stored in a variable, is being displayed here. If I change this to something like 15, the calculation is done, but it is still not brought into my context. So what Power App is basically doing here is only on the click of this where I'm going and setting the update context, that's where my value is being stored. So I'll go ahead and click on button again. That's where it got updated. So that's about the update context or your contextual variables, which are within the purview of your screen. And you can use it to do various weather calculations, store your data, hold your counter, a lot of things you can do with your variables. And you can also move the contextual variables to the next screen by using the navigate functionality. So if you see here, if I try to do an navigate on select of it, I'll try to move to screen 2. It will give me the transition mode that I have to choose. And if you see the third option here, which is a context, which actually is asking me, do you want to take a variable from this screen to the other screen? So I'll just say yes. I'll try to move in my variable like this. Again, the same syntax that I'll use. I'll create a new variable called as variable move. Go ahead and set it to something like my value that was already created. If you see here, the variable context value. So now I'll go back to my second screen and put a label over here and try to set this to a contextual variable. So if I just try variable context which I had created for that screen itself is not here. But since I have a navigate functionality that moves the variable to these things, if you had seen, the variable move has been moved, but the variable context has not moved. So you can move your variable from your contextual variables from one screen to other using the navigate functionality. Also, you can you can use a second type of variable which is called the global variables, which moves across your screens without any hassles. So something like, let me go ahead and create a new global variable and show how that is being created. So to create a global variable, you go ahead and use a new function called as set. So if you choose set, and PowerApps is very good in showing you the details or how you're using it, right? So if you go ahead and see it, it gives you a IntelliSense kind of structure, right? Where you says this is the format you're going to use. Set the variable. The variable is set to variable global maybe, and then I'll go ahead and set the value of it to a text for now. This is global variable. My variable is all set. And if I go to my screen 2 and try to bring in that particular variable, the global variable which I set, I should have the value here. Let me do a preview. And try to move this as well. Okay, so now if I go ahead and see the value, I have my global variable here. This is a global variable. So that's how the variables works, right? So I mean, there is a lot of things that we can do with variables, but what we are trying to show here is how you can use variables within the context of a screen, or how you can move it within different screens, and how you can use a global variable across your screen so that it comes in handy to do all your calculations, to store your values, and so going forward. The next thing that we'll see today is your gallery control. So the PowerApps, if you see on the top, there are a lot of controls that come with it. So if you see, there is a gallery control, there is form control, there is inputs where you can choose a button, a pen input, or something like a slider, rating. You can use timer. And also you have various media options, right, where you can go ahead and use an image control, a camera control if you're using on your mobile for something like a frontline users, right? So where you have a mobile app built and you can use your camera of your mobile to use something like a camera or a barcode scanner, or you can go ahead and use something like a timer to do all those things. So all these things is already inbuilt and gives you a lot of options to build across it. So the next quick tip that we'll check now is going and creating a gallery height and how to keep it dynamic across. So I'll go ahead and add a new screen. And if you see in the new screen over here, you see there are various options that you can choose. You can choose a blank one, you can choose a scrollable one, you can choose a list, and there are multiple other screens that already come as templates. And also to provide an update or provide an overview of these controls as well, right? Because we have seen the bigger controls over here, the controls, and it has a lot of properties over here. You can just go ahead and set various kind of properties like the color. You can go ahead and set the text alignment, height, visibility, and all those kind of things. And you can also set the functionality part of it, where you can go ahead and see what happens on visible, what happens on the live event, or what happens, what kind of font you should use, and all those things. So we'll create a quick gallery screen now, and I'll choose a scrollable one for now. And if you see, it came up with something called as canvas, and within it put in a data card, which will grow parallelly as your data grows. Within this, I'll go ahead and put in my gallery control. And it's asking me to connect to a data source, which I'll go ahead and try to connect to a SharePoint environment. And since I selected SharePoint, it gave me all the sites that I had already created. And I already have a site called as PowerApps demo, which is already created in this environment. And as I choose the site, it gives me an option to select a list. I go ahead and select a list, connect to it. And there you go. You have all the data that you need to bring in and add it to a gallery. So the second tip that we're talking here is use as many galleries as possible to bring in your data and do various customizations that you can do with the gallery, because gallery comes with a lot of options like filtering, sorting, and all those things that you can do. So what you can do now is what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and try to set the height of it and make it dynamic. To do that, every gallery has something called as a template size. So if you see here, you have something called as a template size. And since if you add something like a new control over here across all your gallery, that makes the gallery bigger. So the size of each template you can choose varies accordingly to your controls that in it. So for now, I have something called as 60. And what I'll do is to make this one as dynamic, I'll go ahead and set the height of the whole gallery with a quick formula, which is I'll set the value of the template size that I already have. So if you see now, it brought down to 160 size, and I'll say multiply this with something called as count rows. So I'm just counting the rows of how many items that the gallery has. And if you see here, it gave me the data source as well. So I just go ahead and select this. And there you see it goes as a what do you say, a scrollable list, which and set the height dynamically. So what I just did is setting the property of the height to something like a dynamic height, which takes the template size of each, and then it just multiplies it into the number of items the data source has and puts its own dynamic height. So that's how that's to the level you can go ahead and make your formulas or write your properties so that you have a dynamic app that is built from just a small formula that you already have. So there are multiple functions that you can see from here that you can use. Go ahead and play around with it. You can go ahead and set the multiple properties for each and everything by changing the font size and all those things. And we'll be able to use all this to our consideration, where we just set everything as dynamic. So it creates functionalities where you can just multiply things and everything is dynamic just in one small formula. So that's about the gallery height. And then another important tip that we have to see here is adding a documentation page, because we'll have to maintain some kind of a documentation for each and every app. So another a good thing or an option, I mean, a use case that we can use here is creating a documentation page altogether, so that you create a screen, just create a screen in every app that you build, have a screen and add your content there, so that next time any developer comes into building this app, he doesn't have to go ahead and just go ahead and see how to build this app from scratch. So that's a best practice that we can go ahead and do with Power Apps. And you just don't have to go ahead and navigate it to that page, and the page is just there within your app, and you just have everything at one go, where you can just use it to have a documentation within your app, and nobody knows it. Only the developer who has an edit permission on it comes to that, see there is a setting page here, just goes and reads about it and understands everything about the app. So those kind of best practices we can go ahead and use here. And also let's talk about another control over here, which is which comes very handy for us. That is HTML input control. So in the text section, if you see, there is something called as an HTML text. Go ahead and use this for all your designs if you want to have something like an HTML put into it, because there will be many questions like, I want to have my own design because I put in a control, a text box, so I have to go ahead and put various colors to it, various designs to it. But even then, I don't have my text formatted in the way I want. So that's where your HTML controls comes in. You can just go ahead and use this to put in your HTML data that displays the way you want. So I just have a quick HTML built up here. You can use various tools online, right? Like HTML online. If you go ahead, you can go ahead and build the way HTML, the HTML you want can be built directly from here. You just have to copy that, and you come back to your Power App and just copy this and paste it within the double quotes. Give me a second. Looks like my system is hanged. Let me copy this again. Go over here. And everything that you put should be within your double quotes. And there you see I have built an HTML with just a single control. So if you see here, I have a control which displays me a lot of UI, right? I have an image, I have HTML details, everything that you can do within HTML can be put inside Power App. So that is another important trick that we can go ahead and use. So so far what we have seen is we have seen variables that we can go ahead and play around within Power Apps. We have seen the gallery control, which is very useful, and you can go ahead and play around with it to set the dynamic height, set it to show data from different data sources. And also we have seen the documentation page that we can add on the Power Apps to actually show up the data or the settings or the instructions for the next developer or anybody who has an edit access. So that's the third thing that we can do. And the fourth thing is your HTML text that you can go ahead and add into your HTML input text, so that you can build different variable various designs that you want in the way you want. So that's all possible with Power Apps. So it's a great platform which gives you a lot of opportunity or a lot of options to develop beautiful designs which can be used or created using various controls that are already available. Just go ahead, use it. Put in your HTML. If you want to put in your HTML, put in your HTML. If you want to use a gallery control, go ahead and put a gallery control. If you want to use a form like an edit form or a display form, like something like a SharePoint edit form or display form, just go ahead and put it in so that you have your edit form and display form in your Power Apps as well. So all these kind of things you can go ahead and do with it. And uh, you can also have various other controls, right? Like your timer control. So if I'll just show one quick tip with it, that you can just put in a timer control, and timer has an option to set various things, right? Like I can go ahead and start a timer, and I say if it's like 5 seconds, move me to a different screen, or after 5 seconds, do something like give me a pop-up. You can do a pop-up where it says give me a message, and then on clicking on it, move me back to something else. So if you see, I have just put a timer control over here, and if you see the properties or the functions that I can use have changed here. You have auto pause functionality. You have functionalities that you can do within, like what happens when timer has to end. I'll just go ahead and say that when timer ends, navigate me to something like screen 3 and give me something like this. And if you check now, and if I start the timer started. And I have set, I can go ahead and set a timer like 5 seconds, 6 seconds. So I set for 6 seconds, and after 6 seconds, I said it just navigate to me to a different screen, and all done. I'm just using this button click to move me to a different screen. So all this kind of tricks you can go ahead and play around with your app so that your app becomes beautiful with the designs that you put, as well as the different functions that you put. So these are some of the tricks that we have learned today, like which we can use in our day-to-day lives to make your Power App better. So let's go back to the deck. And see what are the new features that have been coming up as a part of Power Apps. So as we have been saying, Power Apps is a growing platform that is being uh, uh, developed every day. That means there is a new enhancement that is being coming every day, as you see, and you'll have to just keep on tracking it to see what better fits into your design and into your environment. So recently we see that there has been an introduction to mixed reality, where you can build an app that actually brings in your 2D or your 3D modeling. This would actually help a lot of front-end workers, right? So suppose I'm a factory worker and I have built in a design on my mobile, something using something like AutoCAD or something like that, which is a 3D model, and I want to see if that fits within my factory environment. So I have a Power App built, which brings me an option to see if I can model that into my environment. So that is mixed reality for you. So you can go ahead and see if I can place this particular model of a crane or model of a device that have been built. If it fits into the environment, take a picture of it using Power App, using the camera control, store it within, send it to someone. So that kind of mixed reality has come over in Power Apps, which you can use to a greater need. And there are new geospatial features that has been come as a part of your Power Apps. So what you can, when we say geospatial features, there's a lot of functionalities that comes with your location services, right? So I build a Power App and I put in my map control into it, and I can actually go ahead and move through my map to see what is what, where it is located. All the location services has been brought into Power Apps now, so that I can go ahead and manage it, everything from the tip of my fingers. So something like a COVID tracker or something like that can be easily built using the geospatial features, where I can go to a location, see what is there. So all that capability, and also the address functionality, right? I just go ahead and check in, have a text box where I had to search for an address. So if an address is already listed, something like a Google search, that can be brought. So all those location services has been brought in Power Apps. So which is a great advantages for people who are building apps for frontline workers, and especially in this environment where we have COVID and all, right? You can go ahead and build those kind of things where you can build a beautiful app that tracks everything based on your location, tracks everything based on using all your features that comes up with your mobile. So something like if you in your mobile you have a ruler kind of thing, so that can be brought into PowerApps so that you can use the ruler to actually find the length of a device and then just store it in PowerApp. And recently there has been some updates in formulas where if you are on a particular a screen or a particular app in your browser, and if you want to actually uh, click on a link and it wanted to something like a browser where it refreshes on its own self, that has been brought in. So this was not there until now. And if you had clicked on any link on a launch or some other kind of function, that would take you to a different page altogether or open in a new browser tab. But that has been changed to have a parameter called a self, which is going to be very useful for the developers in hand. And also there is an exit sign out kind of functionality that has been brought in, because if with PowerApps we always had something like an exit functionality, but it never exited you out of the powerapps.com. It was still bringing you back to the PowerApps homepage. But now with the exit sign out, if you set it to true or something like that, you can go ahead and use that exit functionality so that it signs you out of everything, and next time you come in you have to sign in again. So all those new events have been happening in PowerApp, and which is very, very exciting for all the developer people around the globe to bring all these new functionalities in, do play with all your controls or different things that have been coming in, so that we can go ahead and build good solutions for everyone. So that's all about our session today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post it in the Q&A section. And next is our feedback slide, where you can provide feedback to us as well as the event. You can go ahead and open up your camera, just take a photo of this, and which will open up a form for you to provide your provide a feedback to the speaker and also the event, which is very helpful for us as well. And thank you. So that's all about our session today, and we'll wind up here. So thanks everyone who has joined us on this session, and thank you, Manpreet.
Thank you, Nishanth. I think we had like around 10 questions. I've asked them. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Let's see you tomorrow, same time at 12 p.m. onwards. It's gonna be tomorrow and day after. Let's come in here, choose the track you want to listen to and learn from them. Thank you everyone for joining M365 Trading. Bye bye. Take care.